Released on October 31st, 1998, Carnival's a rail shooter arcade game released by Midway Games that is now defunct. It's noted for its blood, gore, creepy imagery, and dark humor. Daniel Bigelow had said, and I quote, "What could be more American than shooting at the undead?" The arcade machine greeted anyone who glanced over with excessive carnage and freakish characters littered all over the said machine. One side has an image of the entrance of Carnival, a clown-like character with a gaping mouth and wide unhinged eyes. The other had a delightful poem written on it. It goes, "We're visiting your town. No, not the Walking Dead, just a silly clown. We open every midnight and close before dawn. Your mommy may come look for you, but by then we'll be gone." When I was very young, my family would frequent the public laundromat. There, next to the coin-operated, toddler-sized carousel towards the back, loomed Carnival. I remembered how scared I was of the machine, just by the images alone. I had always watched the older boys play, shoving quarters to quickly start where they died before the timer ran out. My mother never really let my sisters and I play that game, because the quarters were for the washing and the drying of the clothes. It didn't stop us from pretending to play, however. We were making a bunch of gun noises as we pointed the plastic guns at the title credits. Then one day, it simply disappeared. Then slowly all the arcade machines were gone. This was because game consoles to take home were becoming more popular, and the fact that Midway had stopped making games. Now that I've grown up, every year I go back and I reminisce about this game. In my opinion, it really was the origin of my fascination to horror. It was wacky, uncanny, and had fun, twisted character designs.
When the moon is full and trees are bare, walk through the cemetery if you dare, where skeletons rot and corpses fester. Locate the tomb with the skull of a jester. Feed him the token all shiny and new. It is then that Carnival will return for you.
The jester in said poem is named Umlaut, and once you feed him the token all shiny new, he almost bites your fingers, and then he rises up, laughs maniacally. Carnival comes straight from hell, and is brought onto the world. There were some untraceable rumors about the players being Jacob and Lisa, and they have like a backstory to them in a sense. But the creators were interviewed on Games Radar and had debunked the theory and the rumor. And honestly, it's kind of boring. But then again, I appreciate that the players were like coming up with lore. There was another untraceable rumor that Frank Welker, who was the voice of Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo, had voiced Umlaut. But it wasn't. It was actually one of the creators of the game, who did many of the other voices too. Umlaut, Ludwig von Tokentaker, Hambone, and things like that. The game is sectioned into 4 sections. The first would be the Haunted House attraction, then there's the Rickety Town attraction, and then Freak Show, and lastly the Big Top. It doesn't really matter what pattern you do first or whatever, it still goes on to the Big Top.
Welcome to the haunted house. Meet a ghoul who lost her head. If you'd like to stay and join us, you're always welcome, alive or dead.
Honestly, I think the Umlaut sections are probably my favorite, since I love poems. I love especially poems that rhyme, and you know, it's the whole clown thing, and you know, he's so maniacal. I like that. And who could forget the best character, Betty? She's one of the civilians that runs amok. She can't save herself, so you have to shoot all the zombies or whatever is trying to get to her, and of course, if you shoot her, you lose points, because this is a don't shoot the civilians thing. Hambone is one of the mini-bosses within the haunted house, and there was a rumor speculating that Spooky Sam the one who was shown in the beginning intro, actually turned into Hambone. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a thing, I suppose. The concept art of Hambone is the whole soul and life for the game. Everything is centered around that one concept art, and I think that's pretty cool. There are so many things that you can find within the game, like little Easter eggs in here and then, and amazing details that they put in. Like at one point you can see Betty already chopped up in a bucket, and then on the fridge actually shows the main boss in this section. Yeah, it's just like a little drawing. I think that's pretty cool. There's even more Easter eggs within this game, but I'll tell you once I'm going through all the sections. Evil Marie is a powdered wig-wearing zombie lady who swings her axe. Controversy surrounding her due to the fact her clothes come off the more you shoot her, along with, her flesh. She flies around and fades, and so I'm guessing she's a ghost, but a zombie. I think that's cool, I suppose. I think I can name like maybe 2 of the bosses, or 3 of the bosses that are in this game that are extremely dramatic. Marie's being one of them.
What goes up must come down. Now you're headed for Rickety Town. Ride all the rides, have some fun, then eat your heart out on a sesame seed bun.
What's pretty interesting is that there's an unused recorded voice line for this one. They decided to scrap it later, and I understand why.
What goes? You lose your worries. You lose all care. In Rickety Town, I have a hunch. You lose your voice from too much screaming. I bet you'll even lose your lunch.
Rickety Town has a lot of themes within this one set. There's the sleigh ride, which is supposed to be like a Christmas theme. There's these things called tinsels, and those are these like zombie-like elves. Another ride is the Ferris wheel, which is called the Big Bunyan ride. It is probably one of my favorites on the soundtrack too. Very, very catchy. Has some underlining tones of the Redding messages, and it's just so catchy, and I really like it. It's probably my favorite part in the soundtrack. This is where we beat some of the enemies. Smiley Bob. Some of the dinos, which are actually a reference to another game that they have called Trog. I thought that was pretty cool. And also there's loads of other weapons you can use, like a flamethrower, acid bath, or shotgun. Or even machine gun, I believe so too. Yeah, it's just, there's so many ways to kill all your enemies, and it's beautiful. Another enemy resides in the food court. They call themselves the Guillotines. I love the puns. I love them all. There are a bunch of zombie-like teens that throw all the food court foods, and yeah. Another part of the great soundtrack is the garage. It's just, just want to boogie. We wind up going back to the sleigh ride, which leads us into our next boss battle. His death is also very anticlimactic, and it's honestly not that fun or nice enough to mention, it's kind of boring.
It's the freak show, see the strange and bizarre. Step right up, we'd love to see you. We think you could be the star.
Okay, floating clown head. Ouch, no need to say anything. The freak show has a lot of interesting enemies. There are a lot of insects. There's also a lot of mutated people, like the flapjack, which is basically 2 top halves of a person's all in one. That's kind of weird. Even when you shoot the other side, the other one will try to still get to you by crawling, and I think that's pretty freaking disturbing. The bearded lady has been freaking eaten by this thing called Maggot Mike. Look, another Easter egg of Trog. Cyclops is another mini-boss, basically Hambone except British and has multiple eyes. And then we decided just to walk over his dead body after defeating him. Then we are greeted with open arms by Rods and Tort, which is basically a bunch of like tortured people. We slide down a tunnel and find ourselves on a conveyor belt with a bunch of all these other tortured people, and then and then we find out that they're being made into some goopy goop, and that red goopy goop is in these big huge baby bowls. That means they're being fed to some big huge thing. Dear God, kill it with fire! Seeing that this is a baby, a lot of people had a problem with this, along with, of course, Evil Marie, because this is a baby that we're shooting. A big, ugly baby. So in other arcade games, there would be a censored version, which would be Teddy Bear, or Teddy. It's a basic, big, huge, overgrown teddy bear. Even the best fall down sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
You've made it to our main attraction, the three-ring circus in the big top tent. We hope our clowns will entertain you before making you the main event.
Since this is the three-ring circus in the big top tent, there will be clowns. Small ones, big ones. Other ones, like mines, that literally do nothing. Why are we shooting them? I don't know. They're creepy, I guess. And look at that, Muertito the bad boy. I'm guessing based off the actual bad boy. And apparently there's also like zombie poodles, which are called brutal, so I'm guessing it's like a mixture of the word brute, or brutal, and poodle. Brutal, whatever. Honestly, like, I realized, like, through the entire time we're being, like, shot out of cannons, we're getting on a tightrope, we're doing trapeze. Man, we are, like, a lethal weapon. We actually had, a little foreshadowing from earlier in the beginning of this level, that apparently they were gonna transplant our brain onto this ape for, I don't know, whoop, never mind, I think we know. He wants to use our brain to put us in the body of an ape, and then the ape will be like some kind of like machine gun ape. Cool, I guess.
This study I have observed.
So now we are taken into his airship, and we finally basically come face to face with him. Umlaut, I choose you! And then he's defeated. Wow. Then Token Taker gets turned into sashimi from a propeller. What's going on? Rewatching the ending, it doesn't make sense because it says that the carnival arrives at midnight and then disappears before dawn. The sun is out, so how could he take the token if they're... Whatever, it's a game that doesn't really take itself too seriously. I shouldn't dig too deep. I guess a cool thing to say is that the opening and ending cutscenes were created by Blur Studios in Santa Monica, with creative direction led by Tim Miller, who is our present-day director of Deadpool. So that's pretty cool, I suppose. The only way to play this game is to either buy an actual arcade machine, which by the way is not cheap at all, or by the legal haziness of emulators. Either way, that's the only two ways to actually get a hold of this. The company was actually thinking and developing a home console for this version, but it was never released. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope I've enlightened you in some way. Until we meet again.